First, New South Wales Premier Chris Minns has not ruled out sending the army in to protect Sydney's Jewish community. Have a look.
I'm not going to take anything off the table. It's not just about ensuring that we've got the firepower and the security on site to protect the Jewish community in the event of a terrorist activity. It's also so that the Jewish community can feel safe.
Now, this has been met with support from many rabbis in Sydney and Melbourne. And I think, Joe, a lot of people in the Jewish community are feeling as though, as drastic as it seems, sending in the army, you would never think that in Australia, any group of people would have to be protected by the army. But the police are under-resourced. Clearly, their security has not been taken seriously enough. Could this be the point our country has reached, where you need the army defending schools, synagogues, community events?
Yeah, quite possibly. I mean, the last time deploying the army was seriously raised as a possibility was, of course, during the Lindt Cafe siege. So another act of terrorism. In this case, it was the army having the particular expertise to be able to take out a terrorist threat as opposed to sort of an ongoing sort of security role. But it's interesting that both of these triggers for the army, but which would be close to unprecedented, not entirely, but extremely, extremely rare, has been a terror attack. The other thing, of course, is, and it hasn't been talked about that much in the wake of the Bondi terror attack. We know, of course, for example, there were 3 relatively junior police officers on patrol in Bondi. I think 2 of them had less than 2 years' experience between them. That is not necessarily just willful neglect on the part of New South Wales Police, and it's emerged that, of course, they got a warning from the Jewish security groups that this was a real high-risk event. And you would think that anyone actually just looking at it would be able to sort of figure that out and think, holy crap, you know, we know already there's a probable rating of a terrorist attack. We know that there are going to be heaps of Jews celebrating very visibly in the open air, not behind a wall, not inside behind closed doors, but right there. You would think it would be obvious. I have no doubt that one of the reasons there weren't enough cops there is because there simply aren't enough cops. New South Wales is facing an absolutely critical police staffing shortage. Its numbers are well below, I think a couple of thousand below where they are supposed to be. It is one of the biggest police forces in the world, but it is down. And of course, the more it's down, the more the cops that are there burn out, the more they then jump ship. It's a bit like teachers. They jump ship and then there's fewer and fewer, and the fewer there are, the more and quicker they burn out, and the more they then jump ship. And so you have this massive problem. So maybe we need the army.
But also the other question here, Claire, that I want to know is how many millions of dollars, how many hundreds or even thousands of police have been deployed to the streets of the CBD in Sydney and Melbourne every single week, monitoring the pro-Palestine marches. I've been in the city on some of those weeks where they have the big protests at Hyde Park. There are mounted police. There are dozens on street corners across the whole CBD. I want to know, how can they give that level of security to the group that, frankly, no one's going out trying to cause harm to pro-Palestine protesters. They're annoying, but people just let them do their thing. Why do they get so many police resources, but the Jewish community seems to get very little?
Yeah. Absolutely, and you can't help but ask those questions, particularly when, as Joe says, we were warned. You know, this was a religious celebration of Hanukkah. This wasn't just a random beach on a random day, and so it was severely under-policed. We know that. And look, it's going to be confronting. I've got children, and do I take them to events where there's going to be heavily armed, you know, federal army guys around? And how do I explain that to them that that's what's needed? But of course, you know, feeling safe is not just about physical safety. It's about feeling confident to return to everyday normal activities. And I think that Chris Minns is right when he says that that's what we've got to do. But of course, you know, having the army walk around events is not what we want in Australia on a long term.